In this video, I want to talk a little bit about fishing after rain. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about fishing before rain comes and during the rain. So anything associated with fishing in the rain, we're going to talk about in this video. Now, real quick before we get into it, I do want you guys to know this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Finn Fishing. Right now, if you buy one of my USA-made sun shirts, which is one of the only ones on the market, you can get a bass hat with a wooden bass badge for 50% off. So it's kind of a package deal. There's also no limit to this. So if you want to buy 2 shirts, you can get 2 hats for 50% off. So you can save a lot of money. All you got to do is add the shirt that you like to cart, add the hat that you like to cart. It will automatically discount at checkout, and it is one of the best ways, actually it's the best way to help support this channel right here, the Tyler Berger Fishing Channel. Now let's get into fishing in the rain. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about when it comes to fishing around the rain, in the rain, during the rain, is actually when the rain is approaching. Because there are a lot of times when we're out there on the water, especially during the spring, especially during the summer, where we're fishing and it might be nice, and then all of a sudden you realize a rainstorm might be coming. Now, the first thing that we should all do is be safe. You know, this is really important, because if you have a lot of lightning coming towards you and you're out on the water, you are in like the worst possible situation that you can be in, right? Because you're on water, you're out there, you're flinging around a graphite rod. Like if you're raising your rods and your rod tips are buzzing, or your line is floating in the air, which I've had happen to me several times, that's a good indication that you probably need to get off of the water. At least seek some temporary shelter of some sort. I don't need guys out there going out there and getting hit by lightning. I know that my uncle personally has been hit by lightning twice on the water, and he's fine, he survived, but it's no fun at all. So let's stay safe. Now, with that being said, let's talk about fishing before the rain comes, because this is actually an opportunity that we have as fishermen to catch a lot of fish. Because as a rainstorm is typically coming, typically that means a front is coming. And anytime you have some sort of front kind of coming through an area, the fish will go on a little bit of a feed bag. And I don't know if there has ever been an exact scientific reason discussed for this. You know, I think personally that it could just be that the fish know that, hey, after this it could get really cold, and it might be where we don't want to go out and constantly chase, and so maybe they like to feed up before then. I don't know exactly, but what I know is that there have been so many times out there on the water where the fish really feed extremely well as that front is approaching. So something that I really like to do is, one, I like to use moving lures a lot while the rain is approaching, because it seems like because the fish are active, you can get away with fishing very, fast moving lures. You can throw your top water baits, your spinner baits, your chatter baits, anything that's moving, your jerk baits, and go out there and catch fish. The other thing that I really like to do is try to be in what I consider to be the best areas on the lake, whether that's a lake, whether that's a pond, whether that's a river. If you have some really good areas, try to be in those areas, because usually areas that are good for a reason. Maybe they have really good cover. Maybe there's a lot of life there. Whatever that reason is, usually areas are good. That's why we have so many community holes. But a lot of times these areas will kind of go dormant because they get so much fishing pressure because they're community holes, and people won't fish them as much, even though the fish are there. And sometimes if you have technology like a forward-facing sonar, I've seen so many times where you pull up to an area that's really good and you look down and you see a lot of fish, and there is nothing that you can do to catch a fish. Or maybe you catch one and it's a done deal. When a front is approaching, these are those times to fish those areas, because a lot of times it will trigger those fish. Like I talked about just a minute ago, it will trigger fish to being active. They will start feeding. And so being in some of your best areas can really help you to catch a lot of fish really quickly, especially if you are a tournament angler. Now, let's kind of talk about fishing during the rain. And one of the biggest things that I think that you can do as an angler when it comes to fishing during the rain is just kind of think about what is happening to the water and the water quality and the water clarity. Because if you have a big rainstorm coming through, a lot of times it is going to be substantially darker pretty suddenly. Sometimes you can go from very sunny to very dark very quickly. And so something that I like to do often is change up the colors on my baits, because you have gone now from a very light, situation to a very dark situation. So in the light, a lot of times, for example, if I'm throwing a topwater bait, I may be throwing a translucent color, something that they can see through. Or if I'm throwing something that's along the bottom, I might be throwing more of a natural color like a green pumpkin. If it all of a sudden goes to being dark outside and you have a lot of rain, that is a great time to switch up your colors. Now, you guys know I'm not huge in the color game, but this is a time that I do like to switch up my colors. Now, instead of using that translucent topwater bait, I may be using more of an opaque topwater bait. So maybe I'm using, I switch over to like a straight black bait. Black is a great color to use when you're fishing in dark conditions. It's a great color to use at night, any kind of dark conditions, or maybe just like a bone color, something that the bass can actually see pretty well. This is something that I do a lot when I'm fishing topwaters in the rain. Now, something that's also really important is that I think that sometimes it can rain so hard that the fish will kind of stop eating topwaters, or it's almost like a topwater gets a little bit lost in the surface rattling, I guess. If you've ever been in a pool or been in the water, when it starts raining, it's really loud. It's very, very loud, and sound goes through water very, very well. So I think that sometimes when it is raining really hard, you will lose a topwater bite because it's just so loud that the fish lose your topwater. So sometimes in order to compensate for that, you either have to use a topwater bait that is even louder, like maybe switching over to a whopper plopper, something that's just really loud and obnoxious, or you might need to go subsurface and use a louder subsurface lure, bait like a chatterbait, baits like a spinnerbait, baits that put out a lot of vibration, but again, they are subsurface. Now, if I'm fishing a plastic of some sort or a jig of some sort, again, just remember this is a time where I like to switch up my colors. Maybe I'm not fishing moving lures, but I'm fishing more lures that I'm dragging, like those plastics. Go from that green pumpkin, go to a black and blue, or go to a straight black. I think that is really, really important. It can help you to catch a couple more fish in the rain. Now, let's talk about fishing after the rain, because this is actually typically when fishing can get a little bit tougher. And this is a lot of times I feel like the fish they've eaten so much right before that rain comes that honestly they're just full. They get full and they don't necessarily always want to bite. So in these situations, I feel like you either have to drop something on their head or you have to make those fish react. Those are the big things that I like to do after the rain is realize I have to drop this thing on this fish's head. Maybe I'm flipping a pitch of the bank. I'm gonna really pay attention to where I think those fish are gonna be resting. So maybe if I'm fishing a big laydown, I really wanna concentrate on the heart of the cover. Maybe a spot where I think that fish is gonna sit there and rest until it wants to feed again. And that is where I'm gonna put my jig, or that's where I'm gonna put my soft plastic bait. And I'm gonna let it sit there for a little while. A lot of times I'm gonna yo-yo these baits a lot more after a front has passed. So I'm gonna really kind of keep that bait in the strike zone for a long time. Or sometimes you will find that you can make fish simply react to a bait. You can still throw some of those moving lures and get them to bite. But one of the biggest things that I think is really, really important to do when it comes to fishing after the rain is trying to figure out what happened again to the water. What happened to the water in your area? Because sometimes when we have these sudden rainstorms, you will have water that can change drastically very quickly. If you're in a backwater pocket that has a stream that flows in, that water may go from being fairly clear to muddy all of a sudden. And a lot of times if you're fishing in freshly muddy situations, like areas that just got muddy from the rain, that is a bite killer. A lot of times that silt, that sediment that's flowing in the water will really prevent a bass from more or less being active, because the more active they are, the more that they have to breathe oxygen, and they can't breathe it as well when you have a lot of sediment and silt that's in the water. So a lot of times if I am in those areas and all of a sudden they get muddy, I'm out. I'm gonna go look for clear water. But sometimes you'll find moving water that's not muddy. And this is probably one of the biggest keys. This can be one of the biggest times that you can go out there and just catch a ton of bass, is finding moving water that isn't extremely muddy. If you find a pipe that's flowing into a lake and that pipe is now all of a sudden gushing with water, you can actually start catching a lot of fish in a little area, because those fish will be attracted to that. That pipe might be bringing nutrients, it might be bringing insects, and then you have a bunch of bait fish that are also attracted to that water and that movement, and then the bass just follow them. So if you can find these little runoff areas where it's not extremely muddy, you can catch a lot of fish very quickly, and it can be extremely fun. And a lot of times it doesn't matter what you throw in those situations. You have active fish in a small little area, a very confined area. And what I've seen at times is that you can find a pattern. You can find a pattern where you can look for runoffs. You can look for areas that have changed, and you can go and fish these areas. Now, the big thing that you should also know is that typically the areas that get muddiest the fastest also get clearest the fastest. So if you are fishing a lake for multiple days, for example, in an area that you're fishing, you have a big rain that comes through and it all of a sudden gets muddy, and it was one of the first places to get muddy, that will be the same area that typically clears up the quickest. So sometimes you have to leave that area at first, but maybe a day later you actually come back because it has started to clear. It has started to settle a lot quicker than the rest of the lake, and you can actually start to catch a lot more fish in that little area. I know a long time ago I was fishing a body of water where a lot of guys skipped over a particular area during practice for this event because of how muddy it was. It was fresh mud. It was, 2 inches of visibility. But during the tournament, that area started to produce extremely well because it cleared up faster than the rest of the lake. So guys, those are my tips for fishing before, during, and after the rain. If you guys enjoyed this video, you might like my most recent video. Also, don't forget to check out that fin fishing gear right here. I will see you guys tomorrow.